Melanie Knight. So Melanie is the founder of the Petty Harbor Mini Aquarium, a nonprofit education center in Newfoundland. And it's a catch and release aquarium. And since she set that up, she's been working with coastal communities around the world to help them start up something very similar. So could I please welcome Melanie Knight on stage?
Hello, everybody. When you see that, where does your brain go? Come on, into the gutter. Get it out of the gutter. That's what you might be thinking. We are at the Fox Theater, of course, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. I know, flip it up, keep it going. Okay, great. Next slide, please, yeah. Okay, perfect. So my talk is entitled Getting Down Without Getting Wet, and the whole idea here is that the ocean is what I love, and the ocean is what we really need to be spending more time and attention on. But frankly, it's really hard to explore. It's freezing, it's cold, it is dark down there, it's very hard to access, and so we need to find ways to get down. All right, so we're gonna get down today, including, there are lots of different ways to get down already though. You've probably seen this, and this, and this, all legitimate documentaries. You've maybe seen one of these. Actually, I think we have a drone guy in the audience who works on ROVs, which is a remote operated vehicle. So these are ways for you to get underwater, take videos yourself, see what's down there. You could also use a dry suit. So you're pretty much dry going down. The only thing that gets wet is your head and your hands. And this is my friend Andy. He wrote the Encyclopedia of the Pacific Northwest for marine biology. And when he and I go diving together, we do have this awesome privilege to be able to see what's really down there and turn over rocks and get a closer look. But not everyone has that same privilege. Most kids under 12 can't go diving. No kid under 12 can go diving. Don't take them diving. They're too young. They're too small, but which limits them from being able to see it. So if you want to go diving, that's one way. But if you want to go down and stay down, you could try one of these. This is Aquarius. Maybe you guys have heard of Aquarius. It's an underwater laboratory in the Florida West Keys. And Jacques Cousteau spent 30 days down there to be able to take a longer exposure time to actually see the animals and see how they're really living down there for a longer period of time versus at 60 feet, you can pretty much spend about 40 minutes down underwater that deep. This way you can spend 12 hours. By the way, his son just broke his record by 1 day. Come on. Come on. You can't just like break your amazing dad's record by only 1 day. Like that, anyway, it just seems, anyway. Okay, so you could also choose to go down with a submersible. If you want to also do the Mr. Roboto, you can do it that way too. It's called an exosuit, and also that one there's called the newt suit. And it's amazingly designed by a guy who lives in North Vancouver, Phil Newton. And then, of course, this one here, the one that has it's a multi-person submersible, that one there has Dr. Sylvia Earle in it, who is my legend and idol. They call her deepness. That's how legendary and amazing she is. And these machines, though, are pretty much reserved just for the people like her, just for elite scientists and documentarians, including James Cameron, who go down and use these types of technology. It's really not for the average layman. So what about everyone else? How does everyone else get down without getting wet? Perfect. There's this awesome, cool project in Victoria that's getting started called Fisheye Project, where they are, oh, yeah, that's cool. So the Fisheye Project is all about a live diver goes in the water in Victoria and then projects it out to students in the classroom, and that way they can kind of get a closer look and see what's down there and ask questions to the diver while they're underwater. Super cool. But again, the kids aren't getting wet in this case. Aquariums is another way. Of course, you guys probably have all been to the Vancouver Aquarium, all had a memory there. This is one great way to be able to experience life at eye level. And so this is my first experience having the ocean brought to my eye level. I was actually already in school for marine biology when I went to the Aquarium Mini Aquarium. Has anybody been to the Aquarium Mini Aquarium? Yay! Yay, thanks everyone, yay. Okay, perfect. So I walked into the Aquarium Mini Aquarium and I had the most incredible experience that changed my life in many ways. And next slide, please. So before I tell you that story though, why does it matter? Why do we need to go underwater? Why do we need to know more about what's underneath the surface? Can I have everyone please take a breath with me? Deep. It needs to be deep. Make it deep. In and out. One more time. In and out. Very good. Did you know that every second breath you take, that oxygen comes from the ocean? We give trees more credit than they deserve, all right? The ocean deserves a lot more credit for the oxygen in its atmosphere. This, does anybody know what this is? Phytoplankton. Anybody know what specific type of phytoplankton? Green. It's actually a type of blue-green algae. But you know what? You guys probably pronounce and tell me, right off the top of your head, probably a dozen different tree types. But how come no one can identify this vital plankton? That's part of the reason why we need to get down without getting wet, is because this is called Prochlorococcus. All right, say it with me because you can impress your friends with it later. Say it with me. Prochlorococcus. Yes. It's a great word. It means primitive green circle. That's what that word means. And it is responsible for almost 50% of the Earth's oxygen. So of all the plankton in the ocean, this is the majority of it. And it is pretty much responsible for our climate, our atmosphere, and the oxygen that we breathe. Okay, great. The other reason why we should care is because 40% of us live on the ocean's edge. So within 100 kilometers, 40% of us live next to the water. Sorry, that's my signal. I'm trying to give a signal. Okay, great. The other reason why we should care about this is you may have heard of these things: ocean acidification, coral bleaching, overfishing, plastics, biodiversity loss. Yeah? Okay, so there's a lot of reasons why this should matter. Perfect, including, of course, climate change and sea level rise. So we're all clear, right, that this is a thing that matters? So I can move on? Great. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so now that we know that it's important to know what's going on underneath the surface because we rely on it in so many different ways, this is where we need to get people to see the ocean in a bit of a different way. Okay, so you can't see it, but there is a ladder. For some reason, that's not showing up. But let's just imagine that there's steps. So, sorry. So the first thing that we need to do is get people connected, right? If we get people connected to the things that matter, then they'll get curious. They'll be like, oh, interesting, tell me more. They'll look it up online. And from there, they will actually be like, that matters to me. I care. And eventually, hopefully, they'll change their behavior. Now, Dr. Sylvia Earle said in her TED Talk that with curiosity comes caring, and with caring, there's hope. So we are trying to get to a place where there is hope in the ocean. So I like to call it the 4 C's. And this is where I walked up the ladder at the Floatum Mini Aquarium. So back to the aquarium. Here we go. This is a quick story. I walked into the aquarium and was instantly given the opportunity to touch a sea star. Who's touched a sea star? Perfect. I'm glad all of you have. Well, most of you. Great. So the interpreter there asked me, do you think that sea stars can see? I don't know. Who here thinks that sea stars can see? Sure. Who here thinks, no way, sea stars can't see? That's crazy times. Who doesn't want to answer? Okay. So sea stars can see. They have little light spots on the tips of every arm. So they actually have 5 eyes. And it allows them to see, not pictures like you and I can see, but they can see light and shadow, and that's how they cruise around, find their food, find their shelter. These are the incredible stories that I learned, and I heard like dozens more as I walked this mini aquarium. And I had been to aquariums before. I had been in marine biology school, and still there was really no personal connection to the sea until that day. And as soon as I walked through, I kind of learned more, but then I got curious, and I was like, I want to know more. So I went back every single Wednesday and volunteered at that Floatum Mini Aquarium. Next slide. So this is what it looked like inside. Lots of small tanks, most of them open top so you can get your hands wet. Oh, one more back, sorry. Perfect. Whoa. And then one more. Great. Okay, so at the end of the season, what makes the mini aquarium super unique is that they release all the animals. So it is a catch and release aquarium, Canada's first, and it means that the kids, BYOB, they bring their own bucket, and they come and they get an animal. The animal goes inside the bucket, and they walk down, and they put it back in the ocean. And hopefully the idea is that we get them connected to understand that these animals live down there, and although as soon as they release it and it kind of disappears into the blue, those animals still are down there. So the idea is to connect them to what's really down there. Pretty cool concept, right? So I thought this was pretty rad. So the Euclid Aquarium was really popular, and it ended up growing. It is now 4 times the size. I highly encourage you to go there. If you don't know where Euclid is, it's on the very far west coast of Vancouver Island. Take a ferry and then drive 3 hours, and you're there. And that's what it looks like inside. It's gorgeous. Has a big tide pool in the middle. Next. And this is Philip Brooker. He's the founder of the Euclid Aquarium and my mentor who helped me start the next one. So the Ucluelet Aquarium moved to Campbell River, actually, so you can also go see the aquarium there called the Discovery Passage Aquarium. But then all the while this was happening, I got inspired to start an aquarium in Newfoundland. I said I was going to school for marine biology in Newfoundland at the time, and they didn't have an aquarium within a close proximity of the school. And I thought, that's crazy. How can it be right on the coast? The whole history and culture of Newfoundland is embedded in this place, in the ocean, and still there's no place to explore it. Nor a place to see an actual cod unless you want to just eat one. So I thought that wasn't correct. This is beautiful Petty Harbor. If you've seen a postcard of Newfoundland, it's probably this one, because Petty Harbor is the most photographed community in all of Newfoundland. And it looks just like that. And those fishermen, I know them. That's Bernie, and that one's Bob, and they are literally just drinking beer all day right there on that spot. And they yell at me from across the harbor like, what's up? Anyway, it's too cute. So this is a filleting room. So the fish plant that's in Newfoundland, in Petty Harbor, it closed down. So it had a big vacancy because of the cod moratorium that was called in 1991. And so they had this big empty space. So when I called them and said, hey, do you want an aquarium to come to town? They were super pleased to be able to fill up their empty space with something interesting and good for kids. And so the filleting room is where the cod used to be cut up. And it was pretty crappy looking inside. And so we had to get to work. So we drew out where the tanks would go. We figured out which animals we wanted to find. So this is going to be a fast part. We're going to keep snicking along here. Perfect. So so quickly here, this is a picture that was taken 10 days before the aquarium opened, and we didn't have any water running, and we didn't have any animals. And this picture was taken at 3 a.m. It was a very busy time before we opened this place. So we had some volunteer divers that helped us do the collections in a nearby place. And this is Ruby Banwaite. She actually works at the Vancouver Aquarium, and I kind of punked her for 6 months, and she came out to Newfoundland with me, and we started this aquarium. And on opening day, instead of a ribbon cutting, we did a kelp cutting. And, and our youngest volunteer, Evan, did the honors. We had an amazing team of volunteers and staff, and they were able to make a big difference for over 17,000 visitors that first year. We were only open for 4 months, so it was pretty fast and pretty packed in there, actually. It's like a kitchen party, if you've ever heard of a Newfoundland kitchen party. That was the vibe we were going for, packed and fun. And at the end of the season, of course, the kids BYOB'd. But I want to tell you a quick story about Maya. So lots of kids came through the door, but the first kid that came through the door was Maya. And she lived down the street from the mini aquarium. She was 10, and she lived in Petty Harbor her whole life. And when she walked into the mini aquarium, we told her about the sea star, and she had never seen one before in her life. And we told her that the sea star had eyes. She was like, whoa, like what? Just like me, like losing my mind when I learned that sea stars had eyes. And then she went on through the rest of the aquarium, and she didn't want to leave. She was pretty much there all day. She ate all the cupcakes, and she hung out at the grand opening party. But the next day was really where it kind of landed. And it was that she came in with a friend. She snuck in as quickly as she could, and she pulled her friend over to the touch tanks, and she said, look, they have eyes. And I guess her mother the night before said that that Maya didn't sleep at all, and that she was dreaming of sea stars. And when she woke up the next morning, she was like, I want to be a marine biologist too. And so that's why I do it. We are trying to get kids who care, who go up that ladder, which I think is the next slide. Thank you. Oh, look at her moving so fast. Up this invisible ladder. Anyway, so we gave her the opportunity to connect. She got curious. She's coming back. She cares about this. She's showing her friends. And ultimately, conservation for her was being able to share that with her friend. And ultimately, hopefully, that means choosing marine biology as a career. We need more of those. So the mini aquarium concept is taking over. It is becoming a trend, which is very exciting. So we currently have the 3 aquariums in Canada, and actually Ruby, as I mentioned, who works at the Vancouver Aquarium, went on an Arctic expedition, and she brought a couple tanks with her and brought the ocean to eye level for the Inuit up there. And they, same thing, couldn't believe what was just beneath their feet. They had an incredible experience. So of those 4, and then just click, click, click a couple times, these are the communities and countries that we are currently talking to try and get more mini aquariums off the ground. Again, for the intention to bring the ocean to eye level and encourage ocean conservation locally. For communities that can't afford a big, awesome Vancouver aquarium and want something smaller that's a bit more sustainable. And we're also trying to pitch a new idea all about the Floatarium, which would be a way for communities who don't have access to waterfront property or who just can't afford a permanent building to try it out and see if it works and then float it from community to community, kind of like Cirque du Soleil, but for the oceans. So I encourage you to get down, wet or not, but please try and get down. My final quote here is that and I'll just let you read it. Going to the tent and not seeing what's inside is crazy times. So I encourage you to get past the tent, the circus tent that's blocking us from really seeing what the amazing things are happening down there. That crazy circus, get down and see what's down there. Thanks.